Yes.
Councilman Mandel?
Oh, see, now it
Councilman
works.
Jordan?
Yeah,
Councilman Rose?
whatever she screwed it in, I didn't have to find it.
Resolution 2012-103. Resolution providing for increase in
Sorry, I'll just hold it.
collective taxes percentage.
Do I have an introduction?
But that's okay. Because now I can see
Do we have
what we're
discussion?
recording.
Councilman Kinley? Councilman Jordan?
Yes.
Councilman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman
Just gonna hold
Mandel?
it.
Councilman Jordan? Councilman Rose?
Yes.
Dennis, she had Valley, I was like, had it in, and everything was screwed up. Oh, sorry,
An
Valley was
ordinance to exceed municipal budget appropriation limits and establish a cap bank. Do I have an introduction?
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Whereas calendar year 2011, an ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank was introduced on March 19, 2012, and passes its first reading. It will be considered for final passage and public hearing on April 16, 2012 at 7:00 p.m. in Municipal Building, 55 River Road, Edgewood, New Jersey. Councilman Henwood?
Yes.
Councilman Jordan?
Yes.
Councilman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Mandel?
Yes.
Councilman Jordan?
Yes.
And Councilman Rose?
Yes.
Motion passes with 116.
This one, our conference is over. Do we have, anybody have any questions in regards to the bond resolution, 2012-110, bond resolution BCIA ERA refunding? Can you give us a little background on it?
Sure, Mayor. What that is, back in 2003, the borough was part of a pool put together by the Bergen County Improvement Authority to buy out your unfunded early retirement obligation from the state pensions. The state was charging all the members 8.25%, and we were able to buy out our obligation in full through financing with the Improvement Authority, and the interest rates were in the middle of the high fours, so we were saving ourselves a bunch of money. What this is now the Improvement Authority is doing another pool refunding the 2003 transaction because interest rates have come down considerably since 2003. So what we're doing is this resolution is allowing the Improvement Authority to move forward with Edgewater's piece of this refunding to save the borough money over the rest of life of that obligation.
So in other words, the balance,
That's what I wanted.
that would be a lesser interest rate.
Correct.
When will that actually happen? Because the interest rates are going up.
Well, again, the market is very volatile right now. Rates have gone up, rates have gone back down. Again, if there's not a 3% net present value savings, right, at the time in which the Improvement Authority is ready to execute the transaction, they cannot do the transaction.
So they can't do it unless it's lower
Right,
by law.
correct. They have the approval of the local finance board. That's one of their restrictions, is there has to be at least 3% net present value savings.
Any questions? Steve, would you mind hanging out for open vote, just in case we have any questions from the public?
No problem.
At this time, we're finished with our conference, and I'd like to open the meeting to the public. Mr. Henning.
Michael Pugh, 6 Nut Avenue, Edgewater, New Jersey, 07020. And no offense to anybody, but I'd like to let down. I have a breathing problem, and the pollution in Edgewater is not helping it one bit. I've been prescribed oxygen for the severe itching. To see a lot of what I have to say. Forgive my saying, but I've had no answers. Was you there? years and years of asking questions. Today, I did tell our Mr. Gregory friends, who I understand is Borough Administrator, and not alone that, but I believe he's also compliance officer. And I asked him, and he promised he would, that he would relay at least 6 items that have been unanswered by you, Mayor, and by the council in all those years. I would like to know if Mr. Franz has referred to the auditor as has been. I have asked for it many, many times. I raised a number, and you have never, never, never answered me any of my questions. Never, Mayor. And anyway, one of the things that I gave to Mr. Gregory Franz was a list of discrepancies in the tax reportings of Edgewater Colony Incorporated to the tax assessor who's now gone because of discrepancies in his own rule of law as he saw it himself. Those discrepancies, however, continue, and Mr. Gregory Franz has the list of discrepancies. He took them and promised many times that he would investigate, and he never did. I'd like them to be referred to the auditor. I'd like also the question, the unanswered question, about 1445 River Road and its ownership and its tax situation going back to whenever it was first put on the tax map as being the property of the Borough of Edgewater. They claim it and so it was the colony. I'd like also the 6 things that, to save my breath here, you promised you would apprise the mayor and council of those things. You promised me that again. You don't always tell me the truth. But that's what you did promise me. Did you do that today, Mr. Franz?
Not yet, Mr. Henry.
Not yet. Not yet is what you always say. Not yet means I don't do it, I don't uphold my promises, and I lie. That's what it means, because I've been asking you for years.
Correct, Mr. Henry.
That is correct, and that's, I state publicly, and I can prove it.
You just don't like the answers you receive.
Well, that's your defense, but you don't like to perform your official duties. I think you should resign, like I think the Colony Borough Attorney should resign for not protecting the assets. And Mr. Mayor, sir, when you give something and it's upheld by the entire council, when you give the 50 acres of land for open recreational use to the entire borough residents of Edgewater, that's what you do. You have relinquished control, and when you confirm that to the DEP by telling them that you have done that and you want to grant for those 50 acres because of that and because you get it, you have confirmed it, and it is a party company. You'll no longer have it, the residents of Edgewater, and unless you put it to a referendum, you cannot go to deny it and give it back to them as another imposition where you will derive additional income from some of the stock, but not all of the stock. And you, Mr. Mayor, have received from me documented proofs that the transfer shares that have represented the election of board of directors in Edgewater Colony Incorporated represent exactly that. Transfer shares of the original restricted shares, and they can only operate within those restrictions. They have ignored that, and therefore they don't fulfill their fiduciary duties, and therefore any approvals that they give to the DEP or anybody else is null and void. And if we were to recreate the history of the relationship between the citizens of Edgewater, the borough of Edgewater, the DEP and all that, we could begin, I guess, by the decades of raw sewage, hundreds of thousands of gallons of raw sewage with the permission of the borough of Edgewater into the Hudson River. Following up on that, you've got all the illegal and very much Mayor Tansey is just one of them. He happened to be convicted. A lot of other people were not convicted, criticized, and what have you. This is a woeful administration, and this is probably one of the worst in the nation with regard to pollution. I am one of those people suffering from it. There will be more children in the womb, more children yet to be conceived, and you are doing nothing about it except increasing the traffic, increasing the building, and making it very, very impossible. It took me all this time to come down bumper to bumper to bumper to bumper because we get automatic approval. Buy cheap polluted land, put luxury buildings on them, rent them out at exorbitant prices, you'll have willing takers to take the view in and breathe in that foul air that is part of the reality of living in Edgewater.
Mr.
I
Henry,
don't like.
time is up.
Of course it's up. And I like answers, Mayor, which I don't
Mr.
get.
Henry, I've tried to provide you with answers. I've been up to your house multiple times.
There's been up to my, you've
Unfortunately,
never
you
given me
disagree on
answers.
your
I don't know
question.
about multiple times. I happen to
Multiple
there.
times.
You have never given me answers. And you lie if you insinuate or say that
Never
you
lied.
gave me answers. You did not give me answers.
Your time is up.
I swear that you did not
Your
give
time is
me
up.
answers. I swear it. And I'm willing to swear it in the court of law.
Time is up, Mr.
I
Henry.
will.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Mary?
Mary, turn the rod, silver rod, and then lift it up,
Huh?
and then lock it down. Here. Just turn the mic. Okay.
Thank you. Mary Hogan, 606 on Nickel Avenue. One thing is the senior bus is not being repaired yet. They're still having problems not being able to get into the front door. And that people had to exit out through the chairlift. And one of the seniors fell. I brought it up at the last meeting, everybody, you know.
But I thought, didn't Tommy want to address that?
We spoke, yes, we spoke to the.
Well, he didn't address it to me, so.
Okay. I believe it's been taken care of, Mary.
Well, I talked to the seniors this weekend, and it had not been as of this weekend, so. I'm glad you talked about the resolution 2012-110, which is the general obligation refunding bonds, except that everything that's what's in things blank. They're all blank spaces, so I was wondering what actually was happening to that.
Well, it's blank because the bonds haven't been sold yet. The refunded numbers, when the improvement authority goes to market and actually places the debt, the amount and the interest rates will then be inserted in the resolution.
So, in the agreements.
They're in the agreements, right?
So we're passing the sale of the general obligation, not knowing what our obligation is at this time?
Well, again, if there's not at least a 3% net present value savings, then the transaction cannot move forward. This is a general practice that they're giving authority to the underwriters to go into the market, place the bonds, and save the borough money. And if at the time they go to the market,
You commenting, Ms. Rosen? Was that somebody said something else? Oh, okay, sorry.
no, I lost my place. No, what happens is at the specific date, the authority goes into the marketplace to sell the bonds. If the savings is not there based on market conditions, then the sale cannot move forward. This just gives the authority to go into the market, and there's about 15 participants, so there's logistical things involved that these things have to be done and in place by everybody before the authority can have their underwriting into the market.
You also have a resolution there, and I don't know if that was discussed because even though it's on the general resolutions, this was on the tax collection percentage. And in 2011, it was 97.74, and the actual resolution talks about the reason that this happened is because of the tax appeals.
Correct.
And I believe that the reason our percentage goes down is because we won't get it to cases.
Well, but this particular resolution, all it does is you recalculate what the percentage of collection would have been had there not been any tax appeals. And that was $72,543 of canceled taxes due to appeals that get added back to the calculation to give us a larger, higher percentage of collection.
So a little less than 3% taxes wasn't collected because all these people appealed? And
No,
their appeals?
if somebody appealed their taxes have to be paid. So the delinquencies are by virtue of people paying their taxes slower based on the current
Okay.
economics.
But the resolution says that the reason that the rate is low is because of the tax appeals. And I find that as kind of a false statement since.
But then you have to take this up with the Division of Local Government Social Services because they're the ones that
They
provide.
write our resolution.
They provide pro forma resolution for this particular this is a new law that was passed about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Because of what was going on a town-by-town basis, more people were appealing the taxes, real estate values were going down, and a lot of municipalities were having the same problem. People were appealing their taxes, they were getting some sort of reduction. It impacts the calculation on the reserve and makes the reserve from collected taxes in the following year's budget go up much higher than it would under normal circumstances. So this resolution doesn't take into account the higher amount of delinquencies because they're still delinquent. It just gives you the ability to add back to the calculation what was canceled by virtue of tax appeals in 2011, so we can get a little bigger percentage to do the calculation to drive down the appropriation for reserve fund collected tax a little bit to help the budget.
And the state says that's something.
They're the ones that sent out the local finance office.
Okay, so
That was the local finance board and DCA, this was their deal.
so they're saying you don't really have to put in enough money in your fund to cover delinquent taxes.
No, they're saying that if their belief is that because of economic times, tax appeals, the volume of tax appeals is much larger today than it was 3 or 4 years ago. So they're giving the municipalities a tool to utilize to help them budgetarily the year after the tax appeals.
Okay, but this was not in effect when Edgewater Promenade 123, their assessment went down $24 million.
I'm not familiar with that tax appeal took place.
Well, it was in an appeal, but the reason it went down was actually the assessor just dropped it that much.
I'm not familiar with that. I'm only familiar with what went on in 2011 resolution.
Yeah, but he's been the auditor, right, all this time.
I also don't have 2020 memory.
No, I'm saying this resolution is brand new from the state. It's only this year,
It started I believe last year was the first year,
2010.
2010.
Okay. That was my question.
Okay.
I also have a concern, and I was wondering if anybody on this board actually read Ms. Gregory's report on the plan for the spending of the COA funds. Because included in that plan, she gave some figures as to this is the money the borough has collected, this is the money the borough has spent, this is the money that we can now figure into our spending. Except if you do the calculations just on those figures, they're not right. Figures are off. And everybody on the mayor and council voted unanimously to approve it. So I can only presume that nobody really took a look at it as to what it was saying. Also, in talking to people on your COA spending, part of her recommendation is to have 5 units to be purchased from 38 COA, which is the Breland property, or the property that's on Winterburn that's being built, both of which have to be built by Mr. Dives. The problem there is that you cannot, and I defer to Mr. Boja because he's your attorney, you cannot buy rental units. The borough cannot buy rental units. And I also question putting both those buildings on because they're already affordable. And I think the point of having this fund is to get affordable housing, not spend it on projects, including the one on 38 Cove, which you've already given a pilot program to, so you know it's going to be affordable. And you're considering the one on Winterburn to give them a pilot program. So it just seems to me like it winds up being a sham, that the money that sits in the COA funding is now being used to buy units that are already earmarked as affordable. And the town is totally aware of that because you've given a pilot program and aren't considering a pilot program on the other. So I would think you could really have to readdress the spending program that was proposed by Ms. Gregory in terms of spending that money. Thank you.
Thank you. Valerie?
You saved a bunch of money. Can you be more specific as our financial auditor, what a bunch of money is?
No, I think what I said was the state was charging all the municipalities that took advantage of the 1999 early retirement incentive program 8.25% annually on the unpaid balance. The pool was put together because the assembly, recognizing that the 8.25% was much higher than what the market rate was in 2002, 2003, they actually created legislation which allowed the constituent counties, authorities, and municipalities to buy out their obligation to the state pension system and either issue their own debt, or in this case, a number of municipalities joined together in a pool with the improvement authority to buy out their debt at lower interest rate, thereby saving money. Maybe I said a bunch of money. That was 2003. We'd have to go back and look at that transaction specifically to see exactly how much was saved. But again, the same criteria here is there had to be at least a 3% net present value savings to each constituent municipality in the pool in order for the state to approve the
The
financing.
statement I'm referring to was that Edgewater saved a bunch of money. You specifically said Edgewater had saved a bunch of money. We're referring to the bond refunding bond pool, or not refunding, the bond pool that the borough entered into with the county. That's specifically. Thank you for that little tutorial, but I really want to know what a bunch of money is.
Well, I'd have to, like I said, I'd have to go back and look at the original transaction from 2003.
Well, if you can possibly get that number, the bunch of money, and give it to the mayor, because Mr. Franz doesn't answer my calls. I appreciate it.
Sure.
All right, thank you. Mayor, council, I see that you have a resolution here, and I understand it might be for closed session actually, I'm not sure. Just check, part-time benefits, closed session. And I'm sorry?
No resolution.
Not a resolution, no, just under closed session. And I understand you can't, it's personnel, you can't discuss it too much, but is the council considering giving benefits to part-time personnel? Is that the discussion?
No, it's,
Bill, would you like to discuss any of this?
Well, no, we're not going to discuss in detail, but
I didn't ask specifically.
the issue is whether or not there is a statute that may require the borough to provide benefits to serving employees. That's the issue.
And can you find out if that statute is 19 hours or above? And also the marina, part-time seasonal employees. Is the marina going to be open this season for the boating season?
yes, it is.
It will? I see that you have some resolutions here for Ms. Gregory to authorization master plan, land use amendment, and authorize the planner to update the community facilities plan. I know there's been discussion in the past, perhaps not with this particular council, whether Ms. Gregory should have been reappointed. I would suggest that you go back and read Mrs. Gregory's report that she gave you concerning your COA housing development fees that she submitted for you to a way to spend that money, and just look at the numbers. It's a very, you don't even have to understand the numbers. Pull out a calculator, look at the numbers. They don't add up. You know, there's a lot, you know, Miss Gregory's plan that she had submitted to the borough, her master plan that she did, the revisit to the master plan, there were so many errors in it. Really, you know, it's okay to make a mistake once or twice, but, you know, this council really needs to do their due diligence and follow up on the professionals they hire, because they do make mistakes. Sometimes they get a little sloppy. Mayor, when at the last meeting, a member of the, a of the town asked you about Fort Lee and to please, send somebody up there, and you had said that you were thinking you were going to send our planner, Catherine Gregory. The problem with that is Catherine Gregory had formerly worked for Mr. Dives. That's why she had to recuse herself before the the zoning board in Edgewater. So I don't really see how she could not be in conflict representing Edgewater in front of an application concerning Mr. Dives in Fort Lee. I don't see how there wouldn't be a conflict, so maybe the borough engineer could go up or somebody else.
We're sending them as well.
I want to reiterate what I said in reference to the, the pilot program or tax abatement that you have hired now a firm to give you a report. A tax abatement gives a developer, a for-profit developer, it takes the burden of taxes off of him and pushes it on the residents of the borough that's considering it, or a town. It's unfair to those of us who don't receive tax abatements and now have to shoulder their tax burden. And the other question I would like you to look into is whether it was proper to authorize a pilot program for a project that hasn't been accepted by COA as an affordable unit, as a COA. He has a pilot program as if it was an affordable and accepted by COA or the state development.
You're talking Winsburg?
I'm talking 38 and Winsburg. It's not. I do have our COA plans. Actually, I brought them with me, and so far they haven't been certified. So, just do a little homework. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard? Dennis?
Gallagher, 18 Arlington Terrace. Many years ago, I think it's 12, maybe 11, 12 years ago, the Avalon project was approved, but on the condition that an adjoining property, that is the Breland building, devoted entirely to recreational uses. Since that time, that stipulation has been abrogated by the fact that we need to have we need to find a place to put our affordable housing. So part of that property is now turned over to affordable housing. So the original agreement has now been busted. Are we going to do something to make up for that?
I'll be honest, Dennis, I'd have to look at the original agreement and
okay.
bring
Well,
myself
the
up
thing
to
is,
date.
the spirit of this was that the Avalon was huge, and yet it did not have, as large as it was, it didn't meet the requirements of the town. So there was this agreement that we would, in fact, devote the entire property here that is the freedom for recreational uses. And that can't happen because you've already turned it over to something else. And by the way, that seems to be stalled. The affordable being built there on the Breland building, nothing's happening. So, this is sort of like, if it never happens, justice has been denied. The town is being gypped, basically. The record, and the people are being gypped. So, beside that, you don't know anything about
I remember hearing that it was supposed to be possibly a swimming pool. I don't know why it hasn't been done, and I'll look into that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I would make a suggestion here that the person who said they took that responsibility that they're going to provide this, that he get no more permissions to do anything else of this nature. Just no more until he actually satisfies you know, he's got to make good on the promise he made. This is at least 11 or 12 years ago. We have not gotten it. We've gotten almost no recreation in this town. As a matter of fact, we just recently lost a lot. You know, so I think we should just simply bite the bullet here. No more. No more for this person, this guy, this developer, until he actually makes good on a few of the things, the promises he made in the past. I'm serious. You know, this is no joke. Their promises, they should be kept. And as far as somebody going up, actually, who has been up in Fort City monitoring what's going on? That huge development that has incredible, locations for us. Who actually from this town is going up there to monitor?
Well, I spoke with Catherine and I spoke with Neglia to
Catherine has a conflict.
I've been in contact with Mayor Sokolich, and he's aware of the concerns.
Has everybody actually gone up there?
I just haven't.
Why not?
Well, the last meeting that I received a text from members that were there, or residents that were there, I was at a planning board meeting here.
What residents in there?
You were there.
Yeah. Okay, who else?
John represented.
So nobody nobody on this panel here, this entire group of people, saw fit to go up there. This is huge. Nobody wanted to?
Nobody was there that night, right?
Did you come and ask me what happened?
No.
Who did you ask what happened?
Listen.
You went to ask Sokolich?
Yes.
Come on.
Negotiate.
Who else?
I spoke with Sokolich.
So you asked the mayor of Fort Lee, do you think he's in favor of it?
I believe he has major concerns in regards to traffic, the same concerns the Borough of Edgewood has.
I think you're delinquent in your responsibilities. If you can figure out that somebody from here should go up there and watch what's going on with something that's this huge, and you're taking something out of here. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Katie?
Katie Jones. At the beginning of the meeting, you start with the Pledge of Allegiance, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I feel as though we are being divided on a daily basis based on the misdistribution or the uneven distribution of justice in this town by means of tax abatements and such. And the way we are all, there's a different treatment for a different class of citizen in this town. And thereby, when you give these people tax abatements and breaks and constant, favors, then I lose my liberty because I have to work more in order to make up the difference. And your job is to keep us indivisible and do your due diligence and represent all the constituents that has that voted as one, not as the people who voted for you or how you won by default or whatever you got, however you got into office. I don't know. But the deal is you represent all of us. You don't represent one man or two men or a couple of people or a few connected names. You represent all of us. So I understand Mr. Henyu's frustration because as much, you can do something about the time limit here because as much as I used to disagree with the former mayor, he had an open dialogue and he let people speak for a while and he answered questions on the spot. And that's a good thing because when you sit down and someone passive aggressively gives you some sort of snide comment or tutorial that you really don't need to hear and you can't respond to, that makes for a very bad feeling, and again, it divides us. And we should not be divided because right now, everyone is experiencing hard economic times, and we should come together. And that leads me to the fact that since we are all experiencing these hard economic times, except for a very few that happen to be connected, we cannot afford
to give out benefits to people who work part-time, regardless of whom. You have to start looking at the picture as a whole, and you have to start seeing that maybe people, you have married couples on the payroll. Maybe there's double dipping going on. Maybe you can start looking and seeing who already has benefits and who doesn't need a second set of benefits, instead of saying, let's give more benefits out. Because I know that in my household, benefits are being taken away from on a daily basis, again, where I am, feeling an injustice, thereby losing my liberty, and that divides me from those who take my liberty from me. So that's a problem, and that has to be addressed. And that's what you have to understand when you're a public servant. And also I can understand Mr. Gallagher's frustration, because Mr. Sokolich's concerns about the traffic in Fort Lee and the fact that and the impact on the school are not the same as our concerns. We're two different towns. We're configured completely differently. And I know I've driven in Fort Lee in the morning. My son went to school there for 9 years. And if you forgot a piece of poster board and you had to go across town and back again, that was a good hour and a half in Fort Lee. His concerns are a little bit different. We can't get up and down River Road. So someone should find the time to get to that meeting and represent the borough of Edgewater. Also today I was out walking, and now State Highway 5, they took a break over the winter. They never moved any of those cones or barriers. It's ridiculous. If they're not going to do the work, someone should advocate for the borough again and say, clear that up until you're coming back to work, because it's too difficult to drive like that. And also, when you're walking, and this is historic, around the top curve, there's no sidewalk. But at least when I was younger, that area used to be clear. Now there's all debris and leaves, and I don't know who's responsible for the top. I don't think it's Edgewater stuff, but someone has to advocate for us. Maybe our fitness councilman can do it, because people like to walk out of town, and we need a place to walk. And don't even get me started on trying to get a sidewalk on Oxon Hill. That should have been incorporated somewhere along the line, somewhere, when somebody was developing something. That could have been something thrown into the mix. But anyway, we need places to walk. Now, they did finally put concrete on the bottom of Route 5, but we need around the bend. I don't know if that's the state, but while they're there, you may as well ask them, throw in a little sidewalk, because it's highly dangerous to walk around that bend. There's a sidewalk right at the very top of Fort Lee, and there's a sidewalk that begins in Edgewater. There's a little strip in there. And just because it doesn't belong to us doesn't mean it doesn't affect us, and someone has to say something about it. You have to walk around. You can't just go to the ball field or the American Legion or whatever it is that you do all day. You have to walk around. You have to walk up and down, and you have to see what's going around town, not just what happens on your block. You have to walk. That's what I would do if I was in your position. I'd walk around, and and I do it. I'm driving down the road. I just happen to see garbage being thrown off a building one day. I mean, that shouldn't happen. Why do I witness that and no one here sees it? What, is everyone so busy? I mean, what? You're retired. You're retired. Get up and walk around. Take a walk around Edgewater and see what's going on. Now again, we're stalled on Edgewater Place with the plywood pen. Now it's just a pile of garbage behind it, out of view, but it's still. And with the rate of housing going down as it is, that knocks your house down another 5 or 10%. Someone's got to stay on top of that. These are things, people have to stay on top of. Also, there's a sign downstairs for some sort of private golf lessons. That's going to take place in the ball field.
I didn't see that.
Someone should check that out, because as far as I know, I can't use a ball. You're not supposed to take golf balls. And one more thing, and I know this is going to sound crazy maybe coming from me, but why are we busing children from Edgewater to play baseball in the Union? Where are the parents in this? I drove my kid around for years, and I drove other people's children for years. I don't understand now that we're going to now pay people to, bus teams to play ball. I understand it's an inconvenience, but where are the parents in all this? Now that's more burden on everyone else.
Okay, your time's up.
Yeah, well, everybody, I noticed that that varies. Yeah,
I extended it for the same amount of time.
And for the record, you did say a bunch of money, and I would like to know what that means. Because last week we were talking about it a little bit. So, it's got to make sense.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Mr. Kopczynski.
reviewing the answer to the application. Was an update on it?
It's intensity. What's that?
It's still being prepared.
So what?
It's still being prepared.
DEP,
What's that?
the application is not submitted, that's what you're saying. It's still being prepared.
Yes,
The town hasn't submitted to DEP yet. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Didn't you have at the last meeting closed for a session on this?
yes. Yeah, with the
With the lease.
lease.
Involved on, was just the application between the town.
It was the lease agreement. Lease agreement,
The lease agreement.
yes.
That's public knowledge.
No, that's why it was enclosed.
Well, is it public knowledge now?
No.
Why not? It's public land, right?
There's a potential lease agreement. That's what we were discussing in closed session.
Yeah, but that's public land, you know, that should be available to the public. Whatever you can.
Mr. Cutchins, we've been discussing it for the last 5 years. You're aware of what's going on down there.
Of course. Well, it has nothing to do with it, so why is this public knowledge? It's public land. There's no law that says you should have. You're compliant to DEP, have complied to the DEP, yes. With the lease, so what? You're saying the DEP is not involved, it's not supposed to be, you know, that you're making up an agreement that you're sending. Is that what you're saying? Was the DEP involved?
No, there has to be an agreement in place between the borough and the colony before the application can be sent to your neighbors for approval.
So that's what you're dealing with now, at least between. Well, why is that public knowledge? Because it's public land.
Because it's a negotiation between the borough and the Edgewater Colony Board.
Has it come to an agreement then?
No.
Well, when you do come to agreement, will become public knowledge before you send it to DEP?
Yes.
You will?
It'll become public knowledge when we come to the agreement.
Right, before you send it to the DEP. Thank you.
Restricted stock, impossible.
Anyone else wish to be heard?
Actually, I have a question.
Hearing none, I'll close the open.
Can I ask a question, please?
What's your question, Desmond?
You are talking about this thing that Donald was talking about. You're enclosed about it, so we don't only know that something's happening.
Dennis, you know something's happening. You've been on the council when we started this, and we've been dealing with it for the whole time. We're trying to negotiate a contract with the colony.
You can.
But are you going to come out with a done deal, or is it going to be something that's going to be presented to the electorate here, to the people?
That's right.
It has to
Is it going to be a done deal? When you come out, you're going to say this is what we're going to do, or are you?
No. It's gotta be voted in public. It's going to be voted in public. Right now, we're just dealing with the DEP and trying to come up with a negotiable contract to lease the docks.
The referendum won't do any good anyway, because of restricted
Mr. Henry, your time is up.
Yeah, I thought I'd get extra time to mention
I wanted to
restricted
make
stock.
comment on a couple of things that were mentioned here and mentioned last week with regards to a pilot. Somebody had mentioned that Fort Lee did not have any pilots, so I took it upon myself to contact Fort Lee and find out if they had any currently any pilots, in place. And I got a copy. As a matter of fact, it's in your office. I left it there.
Actually, that's not what
So they have a 30-year pilot in place right now, and I'm going to actually review that pilot to compare it with our tax assessor on Wednesday. I have a 1:30 meeting with him, so I'll go over and I'll compare what the pilot looks like and how it, and how they compare to what we're currently discussing. And as far as an abatement is concerned, this is not an abatement.
It is abatement.
This is strictly a pilot that is necessary for the financing. And, again, we'll be working with the tax assessor closely on that to make sure that everything is set.
This is the problem.
Valerie, your time, you have your time.
What was said was Mark Saltridge made a comment.
There's still some public around.
Valerie, please.
Let's make a decision
See,
here.
that's the problem.
Valerie, your time is up. You have your chance.
That's the
Please,
problem.
one or the other.
No dialogue.
Point that I'd like to make. My building that I lived in, paid almost $100,000 in taxes last year, of which my rent comes out of. There aren't any children in the sugar factory that go into the school system. I'm sorry, there's one. I believe there's one. I paid, well, not I, but $100,000 in taxes were paid, in property taxes were paid to the borough, of which my rent contributes to.
That's right, and you're gonna pay more if you keep getting
Mallory,
raised.
have your chance, please.
Mayor, just one other point of clarification. When Avalon was developed, there was a restriction on the remaining part of that property, and a deed restriction was filed. That deed restriction was amended with the approval of the governing body to address a need that we were confronted with concerning affordable housing. So that restriction was modified to allow specifically the development of affordable housing on that site. We are confronted with this obligation. It is not going away despite all of the litigation that is currently taking place. So we have an obligation to meet this responsibility, and at that time, that deed restriction was modified to allow that development to take place. Our consultant, who is now administering our affordable housing units, it used to be the Bergen County Housing Authority, they no longer do that, has now taken on the responsibility to interview and accept the applications for anybody who wants to apply for affordable housing. They have to meet all of the criteria, all of the guidelines, and our consultant, Greg and I, have discussed these affordable housing projects, and they have informed us that it is very common that a pilot agreement is provided, because I think the misunderstanding is in order to obtain certain financing, the New Jersey, mortgage finance agency will not grant you that money unless you do have an agreement in place. What people have to understand is whether there's a pilot agreement or not, the way an affordable housing unit is assessed is that it's assessed as an affordable housing unit. It's not assessed at market value. So the rents are way below what a normal unit would generate tax revenue. So when you look at the two, whether the money generated by a pilot agreement, the money generated just on a regular assessment of affordable housing, a lot of times they're comparable. So, I mean, that's just one of the factors we have to take into consideration. It's not a, it is a way to accommodate this obligation, which is a statewide obligation to provide affordable housing. It's one of the tools available to enable that to happen. So, I mean, those are some of the factors. I just want to make that clear, because I think there is some misconception out there about exactly what, how it works.
Thank you. Anyone else?
May I ask a question on the abatement? So, when an abatement is given, that set amount of money must be paid if all units are haunted, is that correct?
Well, there's two different concepts here. It is correct that there are certain types of tax incentives out there to encourage developers to come into a community that may not otherwise want to come into because maybe they don't think there's an opportunity to make money. That is one type of abatement program. Well, we're not talking about that precise type of thing. We're talking about a pilot agreement, which is a payment in lieu of taxes, that allows a developer to establish and it's based on rent, by the way, it's a percentage of net rent.